Good morning. Happy Friday. I've been encouraged to try to make these videos a little bit shorter, and I appreciate that critical feedback. So, there's a lot here today, so I'm going to jump in and I'm going to leave some healthy tension because I think that's what Luke wants us to walk away from with today's reading. So, to start out with, there's a thing called the prosperity gospel, and it's like an Americanized modern version of what it's like. I would say, I'll phrase it, better living through Jesus, where like Jesus is a life coach, and he's just like another one of these people that we can listen to, like Simon Sinek or some of these other great leaders. Like even Ralph alluded to what a great leader Jesus is, and he's the ultimate leader. But we're not coming to Jesus to learn just some life tips. We're not coming to Jesus because we think Jesus is going to give us everything we've ever wanted. So he's going to help me fulfill all my self-centered dreams, that all my passions, all my hopes, all the things I want this life to give to me. Jesus is going to help me get all of those things. That is a very deceptive, dangerous, if I can say evil approach, because it's actually going to ultimately lead to you and I being incredibly disillusioned. Because if you live life long enough, you're going to get smacked in the face with something that's going to cause you to say, what? Why is this happening to me? And if your faith and trust in Jesus is tied to this better living philosophy, which like you don't deserve any trials, that like something's wrong, that's going to leave you to one of two very empty places. The first one is that there's something wrong with you. You must be this horrible, sinful person, that life is hard and it's not working out for you. And you must be sinning in some way that's caused you to deserve these trials, right? That would be one very flawed approach. Or the second approach, which is probably worse, which is maybe Jesus really isn't the one. John the Baptist, right? Are you really the one? If you're the one and you're so glorious and you're so good, how come this is so hard for me? So just understand conceptually, this is one of the most dangerous things as we're exploring what ultimate love and purpose, when Jesus says he wants to shine his light in us and he wants us to be the light of the world, and he wants us to put our light high on a hill, to take in his goodness, his light, and to shine it out to other people. That's not having to do with you fulfilling every one of your self-absorbed dreams and passions in life. It's bigger than you, and it's so much bigger than me. It's deep, and it's purposeful, and it's eternal, and it's profound. And it's so profound that it helps you to reframe and to put into proper place all of the things in your life that mean so much to you. That's how I want to frame this. So that's why he can say these combative things, like the people that were saying, Jesus, we want to follow you. And he would say things like, oh, you want to follow me? Okay, I don't even know where I'm sleeping tonight. Like the Son of Man doesn't even have a place to lay his head. Or Jesus, I want to follow you, but first let me bury my father. And Jesus very compassionately says, let the dead bury their dead. I mean, it is combative, okay? And you're like, whoa, what is he saying? In other parts of the Bible, Jesus says, unless you hate your father and mother, you can't follow me. Is Jesus really telling you should hate your mother? Of course he's not, right? He's using combative language to express a point, and that point is there's nothing in this life, nothing that can compare to the ultimacy of having a spiritual inward connection and a relationship with the living God. And we get that by placing our trust in Jesus Christ. And this is the bombastic language that Jesus is using. It's purposefully intended to cause you to say, whoa, that's offensive. What are you saying? And if you read the chapter in its fullness, the whole part of this chapter, it's almost an admonition. In other words, it's almost like a loving correction. So, for example, the transfiguration. I want to explain that quickly. The disciples are sleeping. Peter wakes up. He sees this spiritual form of Moses and Elijah present with Jesus. They're having a conversation. You know what they're talking about? You want to blow your mind? They're talking about the plan of redemption, God's plan of how he was going to redeem fallen creation and falling man from the beginning of time when Adam and Eve sinned. And Moses, it represents the law, which any follower of Yahweh, of God, the Jews, they understood that Moses was the representative of how they made themselves right before a holy God. Here's my 10 laws, the 10 commandments, and as people repetitively fell short of living out and living up to those commandments, God gave them an animal sacrifice system where instead of punishing the sin of the failure in me, in not being able to keep the law, I would kill a lamb and spill its blood on an altar and pray and ask God to accept the blood offering of the lamb, of this animal, for my sin and my shortcomings. And by faith, God received that. So Moses represents the sacrificial system and the law. I would need you to get that. Who's the other person? Elijah. Elijah is the greatest prophet. He's known to be the greatest prophet. And Elijah was talking about this one who was going to come in the future, the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world. That ultimately, centuries of this repetitive sacrificing of animals and, the chief priest going into the Holy of Holies and laying down an offering for the people, that ultimately there was going to be the high priest, Jesus himself, God himself would come and give himself up as the offering for our failures and sin. It's beautiful. So Elijah talked about the future. So this is why you have Moses representing the law, Elijah prophesying that there would be one who would come, and now we have in time and space Jesus who has come. And the three of them were talking about, I don't know what they're talking about, but they're basically kind of comparing notes. And Jesus is saying, hey, my time is about to come where I am going to become the Lamb of this world. And Peter wakes up in the middle of this, and Peter, with the best of intentions, is like, hey, let me set up this altar to honor all three of you great people, all of you wonderful prophets. And God the Father admonishes Peter to pretty much say, hey, listen, don't you dare put Moses or Elijah, who rightly should be adored and praised, don't you dare put them on equal footing with my son. This is my son. Listen to him. It's this expression of the ultimacy of Jesus as above everything and everyone else. I need you to see that. That's the transfiguration. And then the heart of the disciples. What are they arguing about? Who's the best? Who's the best? Who's Jesus's favorite? Who's the lieutenant? Who's the VP? They're basically jockeying for position. Who gets what? So I can be a person of influence. Why? So ultimately I could kind of get the benefits of being an important inner circle person. And Jesus is just saying, you guys don't get this, right? The Son of Man is going to suffer. He's going to die. And it says that Jesus tells them, not through a parable, but straightforward, that he's going to suffer and die. And it says that they couldn't take it in. They couldn't take it in. There's spiritual blindness. Even though he's talking plainly, they can't see it. Maybe they don't want to see it. But it's bigger than them not even wanting to see it. They don't want to see that. It's actually saying that they can't. They're unable to. Think about that. All right, I'm almost at 10 minutes. I'm sorry. These things are so rich and deep, but let the tension of this, let it settle inside of you. And if it causes you to be uncomfortable, that's a good thing. It still makes me uncomfortable when I read it, and I've read it many times. It's supposed to jar us a bit to understand that this thing that Jesus is calling us to, it's so great, and his glory is so great, and we are going to suffer and struggle in this life, even with him. But the ultimate purpose and the fulfillment of our lives, that we're made right with God and that we become lights on a lampstand for him, that is so ultimately better than all of the struggles. So think about it, read this, take it in. I love you. Have a great Friday. I'll talk to you tomorrow.